What's up, everybody? Big Herc 916 getting down with Fresh Out. And we have today a very special guest that wants to share some information that you guys want to really hear. So, Grant, man, let's get into your story, man. Share to people like a little bit about your background and some of the stuff you want to kind of blow the lid on.
Yeah, so my name's Grant. I'm a young professional. Um, the first big job that I got was being an IRS agent. Uh, I was an IRS agent for approximately 3 years, and I saw a lot of things. Um, Unfortunately, a lot of those were not so good. Um, well, where do I start? Well, when you're in the IRS, you see a lot of things that you wouldn't believe you didn't see firsthand. So one of the biggest things, I'm I was forced out of the IRS because they say they're protected disclosures, but um I made protected disclosures about a lot of things. I would say perhaps the most disturbing thing I witnessed is that um for whatever reason, IRS management actually protected ISIS. And this was around the summer of 2022, um, around June, July. I was auditing a faction of ISIS, um, and I was quite surprised
How
that
how'd you know how'd you know with a faction of ISIS? I mean, what was that giveaway? I mean, and how do they legitimately audit ISIS when it's supposed to be an illegal organization?
well, believe it or not, um, so there's a lot to it, but you know, I audited exempt organizations. So these are mainly they're nonprofits, and these encompass a lot of different things, anywhere from public charities to you know nonprofit cemetery companies. And you know, there's an application process where organizations can actually apply to get tax exempt status. Okay. And a lot of times they want to get this a lot for different reasons, but mainly they want to get this because they get that tax exempt status. It helps them get funding, especially funding from the government. And so they were looking to get funding, including funding from the government. And
From the United States government?
yeah, and yeah, so of course, when you're auditing a faction of ISIS, what you do is you go and you try to get this, investigated by anti-terror, because I mean, they're a faction of ISIS. And my manager, my supervisory agent, for whatever reason, he would not allow anti-terror to investigate this faction.
Hmm.
And you know, I
So did he basically tell you to shut down that audit, or what did you think that he was in on it or knew something about it? I mean, what was his reasoning?
he gave me a bunch of BS. Um, I was floored by it. Um, I still to this day I don't know exactly why. Um, but he just, for whatever reason, he was hell bent on making sure that it didn't get investigated by anti-terror.
So was this a random audit? I mean, or was there a red flag, like a lot of money was going through this organization? What even prompted the audit?
Well, believe it or not, they were applying for tax exempt status, and you know, call me crazy, but I think it would be a slam dunk to refer a faction of ISIS to anti-terror. But that's just me. So, yeah, that's the main reason why I was auditing it and why I
But I
came.
mean, you're saying a faction of ISIS. I mean, what was that giveaway though? I mean, because nobody's going to put ISIS on their application,
No,
and
they put it on the application.
they put ISIS on the application.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I
Wow,
went through. It was like, yep, that's ISIS.
wow. So, was there other audits that had the same result when they found out these, there was a terrorist organization,
Big
or
hurt.
was this just something random?
Let me tell you something. So, anti-terror management expects us to put anti-terror through a lot of, they want a bunch of different people, okay? That I can tell just by doing research that you know, they're not terrorists, things like that. Because the thing is that they also will look at individuals too. Maybe the organization itself isn't a terrorist organization, maybe an individual itself within it is affiliated with terror. And so,
But
yeah, it,
what allows them to define a terrorist organization? I mean, we know ISIS just by what we read and we know about, like, publicly, what we've been informed about. But like, are there organizations like that come up on that list that you guys look for certain things? I mean, what is there red flags or?
so yeah, so you look at OFAC, okay, the OFAC sanctions list search. Um, I believe that's what it's called. It might be slightly different with OFAC sanctions list search. That's what we use. And so you can type in individuals' names, you can type in organizations' names, and yeah, if there's any flags whatsoever, it'll pop up. And I didn't have to do that for a faction of ISIS. I mean, it's just
Uh,
just it's a faction of ISIS.
while you were working there, have did you see the IRS weaponized in any fashion as far as for certain individuals that they wanted to target for maybe political or for other reasons?
Unfortunately, I have. See, and it's really sad. There was another situation where there was IRS management. I witnessed firsthand them orchestrate a targeting scheme against fire departments. I'm sorry, one of my lights went out. Ugh. So, anyways, so they are orchestrating a targeting scheme against fire departments. So here's the deal. So
So
fire
they were
departments,
going after fire departments.
yes. So here's the deal, Big Kirk. So fire departments, okay, they're they're entitled to receive deductible contributions under IRC Section 170C1. And if you look at Revenue Procedure 95-48, it explicitly states that any organization, okay, that is not a private organization, that not a private foundation, so it'll be like a lot of times there's such and such foundation, So any organization that's not a private foundation, okay, that's entitled to receive deductible contributions under IRC Section 170C1, like fire departments, okay, they are eligible for what's referred to as a 990 filing exemption. Because, see, generally speaking, nonprofits, a lot of people get this confused. Nonprofits have to file an annual information return. It's on Form 990, okay? And while a lot of times, sometimes they'll pay like excise taxes, but a lot of times, like public charities, they don't pay any tax unless maybe unrelated business income, things like that. But most of the time, these 990s, okay, they are just for informational purposes. So we can just track what they're doing, things like that. Okay. And so the thing is that, and you can even look at Revenue Procedure 95-48. It even states in there that it was created for the specific purpose, okay, of, helping, I can't remember the exact wording, but like the efficient administration of internal revenue laws. Okay, like for example, nonprofit volunteer fire departments. Okay, they're not high risk. Okay, they're not, generally speaking, tax shelters like we see sometimes with these, organizations that are that have big ties with related for profits. Okay, they're fire departments. They go out and do you know they and they're inherently, a lot of times they're tied with the government. That's why they're so low risk. Okay, now, and on top of that too, the IRM. Okay, the IRM. Okay, it lists procedures that IRS agents are supposed to follow. Okay, and the IRM specifically states that organizations that qualify for the exemption under Revenue Procedure 95-48, okay, they do not even have to ask for this 990 filing exemption. So what that means is that a nonprofit volunteer fire department, they don't even have to ask for the 990 filing exemption to get it. Okay, you're supposed to give it to them regardless. Okay, and you will see that a lot with these organizations. They just don't know any better, so they never ask for it. And here's the thing. Okay, so let's say we have a fire department. Okay, they don't know any better. They're just doing, putting out fires, things like that. Okay, they don't understand laws or taxes, the way they probably should. So they'll apply for tax exemption. Okay, they'll get it. Okay, and you have to keep in mind that it costs a user fee to get it. So back when I was there, it was like $600. Okay, so they pay $600. They get recognized as tax exempt. So what happens is that 3 years will go by and they don't file the Form 990. So what happens is that they get what referred to as automatically revoked. They get their tax exempt status automatically revoked, which means that once they go 3 years without filing the Form 990, they're no longer recognized as tax exempt. Okay, does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And so now what they have to do is they have to go apply again. Okay, they have to apply again, and they have to fork up another $600. And they can do that. I've seen not just fire departments, but other organizations, they'll do it 3 or 4 times. They'll end up forking, it can add up. Okay, and especially if it's a small fire department, it can add up to big things. I mean, just a couple of months ago, I heard there might have been some issues down in California with the fire departments, and their funding. So I just found it really disturbing, because the thing is that IRS management, they actually issued guidance to not give that 990 filing exemption to fire departments unless they asked for it, even though per our own IRM, they don't have to. And it defeats the spirit of 95-48, the revenue procedure. Okay? Because organizations like nonprofit volunteer fire departments, they're, having them file the Form 990, that undermines, the efficient administration of internal revenue laws.
So, okay, targeting those organizations because they didn't file their 990 form. I mean, I could, I could see that now based on them not having their filing after 3 years. I mean, but have you seen where there's been like a collaborative effort, but maybe between the IRS and other law enforcement organizations to go after certain individuals because of maybe certain things that you've seen politically, or do they look for? Have there been instances where you've seen people unfairly targeted?
Well, I'll tell you, it happens, because I work specifically in EO determinations. Okay, that was actually, believe it or not, that was actually the unit that was responsible for the Tea Party scandal. So, I know they said they're not supposed to do it. They have done some things where they kind of try to make it look. See, the thing you got to remember with the IRS is that unfortunately, I learned the hard way is that they aren't so much interested in integrity, but the image of integrity. So, for example, these political organizations. So, a lot of time, you're supposed to, you're supposed to, you know, you're supposed to be fair to everyone, right? And unfortunately, that's just that's not quite what we've seen with these political organizations. Like, for example, if you see it's an organization involved in politics, automatically, boom, it gets flagged. And
So, what do you think was the reasoning of your manager knowing that this was an ISIS organization? Was that something you think that was said from up above, like let that organization, fly by, don't give them any scrutiny? I mean, what would be
ISIS?
the purpose of that? What's that?
Are you talking about ISIS, the faction of
Yeah,
ISIS?
yeah, 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 yeah. Just because I'm saying, they if they're targeting these, certain, you're saying the fire department, they're sweating them about a 990 form. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, what would be the purpose of them telling you to back up from an organization that should have been investigated under the anti-terrorist?
Well, I, you know, unfortunately, a lot of things about the IRS is backwards. Um, it's it's really sad. The only I, viewers can connect their own dots. For me personally, you know, it's scary to think about. Um, I've seen some things in the news. It just there's some very dark things going on in our government, Big Kirk. Some very dark, evil things.
Like, what would you say those things are?
Um, well, personally, well, if we're gonna if we're gonna talk politics, so you know, there's a lot of for some reason it seems like there's a lot of people that are high in our high in society that seem to profit a lot off of war, which is sick. And if they fund ISIS, they leave ISIS alone. That's just the way to keep conflict in our society. Um, it's just so backwards.
So, are you insinuating that by ignoring um, certain obvious red flags that it allows money to continue to flow to generate profits?
Um, well, what you're doing is you're allowing terrorism to be funded. I mean, it's just that's what it is.
So, what about, like, what do you think about a lot of the NGOs? I mean, do they fall under that same nonprofit status?
A lot of times they can. Um, so yeah, a lot of times they do. They can get tax exempt under 501c3. They can get tax exempt under 501c4. Yeah, and they take it. A lot of them take advantage of it big time.